Good evening, Top fans. Bill from Top Fan Rivalry here once again, the last time for 2020. Doing a Clubhouse, and we got some of our friends back in the house again. Jackson is back, and Ned is back, and Dave is back, and though we're missing some of our other top fans, they'll be joining us again in January and a few others. If you haven't had a chance already, you might want to check out the one that we did last week about the stadium. It's been getting quite a few feelers out there. We might even do another additional one back in January. Might talk about more stadiums. Got a lot of feedback from some folks that watched it that said, so-and-so's been to this or so-and-so's been to that, or how come you didn't talk about this? So we'll see where that goes. But tonight we're going to talk about free agency baseball, where 2020 has taken us with the free agency, what we're seeing for each one of our teams. Obviously, our resident Braves fans and Jackson and Ned. We'll talk about the Braves a little bit. Dave's going to give us some White Sox info. I'm going to give you some Dodger info. And then from there, we're going to talk about some of the free agencies that are, or free agents that are out there. So we're looking forward to it. This should be fun. As usual, after you view, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also go on the Top Fan page, topfanrivalry.com, and subscribe through there. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff that's going to start coming out in January. So we'll take it from there. But that being said, we're going to start with our residence Braves fan, and we're going to start with Jackson. So Jackson, tell me what you're hearing about your boys down there in Atlanta, and we'll go from there.
Well, on the free agent front, not too much, just that they're trying to re-sign Marcell Ozuna. Obviously, getting Freddie Freeman the protection he needs is the top priority. Already that they addressed the rotation a bit by getting Drew Smiley and I already forgot who the other pitcher was. Oh my,
Charlie Morton.
Charlie Morton. There we go. That's right. No, they just need depth in the starting pitching. I think they have a couple really good young pitchers, and the trade front is more of kind of the Braves' forte right now. They're in a bunch of rumors for Chris Bryant and players such like that. But as far as free agency goes, I think they'll go for a bullpen arm or two and Marcell Ozuna. I've heard they might be in on Brad Hand. That would be very interesting. But we'll have to sit tight and see.
Now, Chris Bryant, he plays for which Chicago team, Dave? No, I'm kidding. Let's not start that too early. Anyways, Ned, tell us about the Braves.
All I can say is buy low.
There you go. Ned.
Well, I don't want to dilute the conversation too much with the Braves. So you know what? I thought I would, in the spirit of Viliami, since he's not here, I'll speak a little bit about the Angels because
okay.
living in Orange County, we feel you kind of feel for the team a little bit, and you kind of hope that they kind of build around Mike Trout, and Manassian went out and they're a brand new GM who's a baseball guy who grew up around the game, and he pulled some slick moves already through trades, not through free agents. But Angels really got to go out and get some pitching. I think that's kind of the biggest thing. This year it's really going to come down, I think, to one or two big starters, and Trevor Bauer's out there, and he's making some noise on his own Twitter account, kind of trolling the Angels fans. It's kind of funny, actually, trying to make sure the Angels fans are awake. Hey, are you out there? What kind of noise are you making? So, he's a Southern California guy. So I think it's funny that he's doing that. But it's interesting because you kind of, you're a fan of this game long, and if you kind of know which organizations are in it for the short term and in it for the long term. But you just kind of hope that, they go out there and they do something for Mike Trout. He's such a good guy, such a good player. And, last week, a couple of weeks ago, we talked a lot about Albert Pujols. But if they can go out and sign a good couple, second tier free agent pitchers that are out there, then I think they might have a shot. But I think, with a shortened season last year, we really didn't get an opportunity to really see how Joe Madden could manage his bullpen. But it was interesting because, right before the winter meetings, we always had this Rule 5 draft and these non-tenders, and the Angels went up. They non-tendered about half their bullpen, and they're getting rid of about half their bullpen. So I'm thinking, there's rumors out there that they're trying to pick up some of these second-tier relief guys. They went out so far and have made some good trades. The closer from Cincinnati and the shortstop from Iglesias, both named Iglesias, and Iglesias from Baltimore, to kind of replace Andrelton Simmons, who's a free agent, which is kind of interesting because I'd be interested to see where he ends up, because I don't know that there's a lot of teams that really need a shortstop. Are there? So there's a lot of good shortstops that are out there playing in the majors right now. So I think it was very, very clear that when the Angels went out and they picked up Jose Iglesias, that they were done with Simmons. So
yeah, agreed. And the Angels' big problem, and I agree with you, Ned, the Angels' big problem is they can hit. They've got, Pujols is always a danger. You got Mike Trout, and once every 17 to 27 games, Upton pops his head above water, right? And you've got a few other guys that can hit. They just can't pitch. And Andrew Heaney, as Viliami mentioned last week, great pitcher, but we need some consistency. So I appreciate those comments. Dave, tell us about what you know from the White Sox.
Well, they've been busy on the trade front. Got actually free agent too, bringing Adam Eaton back. They got him cheap for some insurance in right field. That'll be interesting because he didn't leave on the best of terms with some of the players in the clubhouse, and that was when Chris Sale was still around. So we'll see. And then picking up Lance Lynn from the Rangers, I think is probably a pretty good move. The worst case scenario is he's going to eat a ton of innings and hopefully keep them in some games and let the offense do their thing. But on the free agent front going forward, we all know we lost James McCann to the Mets. We loved McCannon. He's got some great. He was just a great fit, a great reclamation project, and I'm happy that he got his payday. That guy deserves it. He works really hard. Would have loved to keep them both, but that doesn't make any sense budget-wise. So we need a backup catcher. The rumor is that they might be okay going with the guys in the system, which is Sebi Zavala, Yerman Mercedes, and the kid from Florida. His name is escaping me, but he can hit. They can all hit. The question is, can they play any defense behind the plate? Can they receive? And then we've got Adam Eaton and Adam Engel probably platooning in right field, but I think they're looking for another bat, and they're probably going to try to address that. And then I think everybody's looking for pitching every day, all the time. And our closer is a free agent, Colome. Not sure if they're going to bring him back or not. I'm reading an article right here in front of me on my screen that they should go after Liam Hendricks, but Trevor Rosenthal might make more sense for about a fraction of the money, maybe 20-30% of the money. Plus, it's been my contention the whole way that Tony La Russa has a pretty big say in who's coming back, and this is a former Cardinal, so keep your eye on that. I bet you we're going to have a couple of Cardinal reunions here on the South Side. I wouldn't be surprised to see Molina end up with La Russa.
Interesting.
And or Adam Eaton or Adam Wainwright, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see at least one of those guys end up on the South Side.
Yeah.
Lance Lynn, former Cardinal, he won a World Series with La Russa, so it's already happening.
Yep. Well, in the boys in blue, we've not a lot of the free agency right now. We don't have a lot of holes. It was Gavin Lux's job to lose the second base position, and he had a great spring training, and then he got COVID. And then when it was time to come back for the summer camp, whatever they were calling it, it just wasn't him. And then it became Kiki and Chris Taylor and things like that. Not a lot of moves on the Dodgers' part. Like Dave said, everybody's looking for pitching right now. I'm pretty confident in the pitching that the Dodgers have. we're always looking for bullpen guys, and we're probably shopping a closer because I don't know how much more time we can tap into Kenley Jensen. Some concerns that I have for the Dodgers is I know there's a lot of trade rumors going on right now with the guy from third base, Arenado. Arenado coming back home. He's from Orange County, but JT hasn't signed yet, and I hear that Toronto is making a huge play for Justin Turner right now. And then after that, Kiki announced on his Twitter account 2 days ago, Kiki Hernandez, that says, "I'm not coming back to be a Dodger at all." And then obviously Jock Peterson has also announced that he's not going to be a Dodger any longer. And Jock's turn is, it's time for him to get his payday. He's great in October. He just can't hit left-handers right now. And we say that from our couches, boys. We don't have to face the 97-mile-an-hour fastball, so it's easy for us to say that. But I like Jock. He's kind of a fan favorite. His family's done a lot. He and his wife have done a lot in LA. So I'd hate to lose JT. I'd hate to lose Jock, but it looks like we're gonna lose one, if not both, of those individuals. So, top fans, that's your wrap up for what's going on with our teams. Now let's talk about what's going on in the free agency market. And boys, can we just start with Trevor Bauer? I have read every article under the sun about this guy. And the last rumors that I heard was what Ned said. He's testing out the Angels. There was a rumor today that he was going to consider to go to that minor league team up in the Bay Area called the Giants. And then also the Dodgers. And the Dodgers were going to consider paying him. And the rumor that I read, which is just insane because Trevor doesn't sign multi-year deals, is a 4-year, $128 million contract. So let's talk about Trevor Bauer first. Is there anybody that doesn't want Trevor Bauer on their team?
Well, I'll start. I mean, we had him on the Diamondbacks, and he and Miguel Montero didn't get along, and hence he got shipped out.
Mhm.
But it was a big deal when he got brought up, and they really pumped it up with his first few starts here in Phoenix. The guy brings personality to the game. He brings emotion. He brings things the game needs. So yeah, I'd love to have him.
Okay. Jackson, what do you think?
I'm gonna go in the opposite. I think Trevor Bauer's last season was an anomaly. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Well, let me get my baseball reference stats up real quick.
Here we go.
He's pulling up stats now. As you're pulling that up, let me just tell you, I'm kind of in Dave's camp here. I think he's crazy in the clubhouse for certain things, and I lost a lot of respect for him by throwing that ball over center field when Francona tried to pull him out. For the Cleveland baseball team, apparently now they're not going to be the Indians. Did you boys read that today?
I did.
They're not going to be the Indians. But Trevor Bauer, I'm in Dave's camp. If I can get him on the Dodgers, I'll even ship Dustin May out. I'll ship Tony Goslin, some of these young guys out for this guy. But go ahead, Jackson.
All right. It actually stems from a video I watched today on YouTube. I don't know by who. Oh no, my internet connection's unstable. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. It was actually about the various ways pitchers used illegal substances to grip balls, and it had this whole thing about spin rate and Trevor Bauer. The video was about Trevor Bauer, basically, how he's increased his spin rate by 400 RPM over the last season. And if you really go back and look at Trevor Bauer's stats as a major leaguer, he has a career 1.2 WHIP, which isn't exciting. Career ERA of 3.9, which also isn't really exciting. And just looking at these stats, the sabermetrics, ignore spin rate, ignore stuff. Because the big thing is, can he pitch like he did this last season over a full season?
Yeah, and if you remember back in 16 against the Cubs, that season he was pretty average. I don't even remember if he was a factor in that series. It was not that long ago.
Yeah. And it goes back to my rant a couple of weeks ago about the new age analytics, where people are so high on these sabermetric stats such as spin rate. And people want to hand this guy a huge multi-year contract when I think he has to really prove himself for a couple more years before you start handing him out a contract like that. He hasn't been consistently great. And
Jackson, if you have
someone
pulled up
watches
right there,
this and tags me on Twitter so he can come at me, that'd be funny.
Jackson, if you've got it up there, remind me again how old Trevor Bauer is. Is he 28?
Trevor Bauer, hold on one second. He's 29 years old.
29. Okay. Yeah, he's
2016 was the year of the drone injury.
Oh yes, I heard about that.
Well, all I can say is Trevor Bauer pitched one heck of a game in Arizona or in Atlanta during the playoffs this last season. He just couldn't get any run support. True. I mean, he looked good, and ultimately, there's a Cincinnati fan that will be joining us at some point. He just had a baby last month, and sleep is at a premium, and he's just outside of Columbus, Ohio, outside of Cincinnati. And so for him, this is 9 o'clock, and whatever time he can get to sleep, he sleeps. But he's telling me that Trevor Bauer is a fan favorite out there, and they'd love to keep him. Bauer, it sounds like he only wants to sign 1-year contracts until he can, like you boys have just proved, till he can prove himself where he can get that final, 7-year, $200 million contract or whatever.
Yeah. So, and I'm looking up other stuff over here too. And this is MLBTradeRumors.com. And they're quoting in September that he walked back his commitment to exclusively signing 1-year contracts, expressing openness to longer deals. So I'm not sure that's the case anymore. I'm sure if you wave a bunch of money in front of him, he'll jump on it.
Yeah. I mean, boys, let's be honest, right? Dave, if somebody offered you to play a game that you just love, offered you $100 million for 4 years, even if you had to live in Kansas City, you'd do it.
I'd do it even if I had to live in LA.
Hey. Let's not even if you had to live on the north side, would you do it?
Yeah, I'd just wear a bag on my head.
Rob's not here to defend himself. Ned, your thoughts on Trevor? I mean, you've been silent about it.
I think he's going to be, as the free agent market's been pretty quiet. Usually about this time of year with most seasons, we already know where all these free agents are going. And I think because of the shortened season this year and no fans, in the stands, how much revenue did these owners really make to really shell out this money? So, but, he's going to be kind of the first chip, once he goes down, then I think you're going to start to see a domino effect. And that's typically how this whole free agent market works, is that, there's 1 or 2 big guys that are out there. And once those guys sign, then everybody kind of falls into line. So, if Bauer were to end up showing at the Angels, he would be that frontline starter that they would want. But, I'm kind of side on kind of with Jackson in the sense that, is he kind of a lights out pitcher? No. Well, I mean, yeah, for one season last year, but from a consistency standpoint, I mean, but you know what? That would be an ace on the Angels. So that would that would work for their rotation. I think what it really comes down to though is is ownership with whatever club willing to pay this guy based off of what they think he's going to do, and that's really where you're taking a risk when you sign these guys to long-term deals. And as following the Angels, I do need to bring up that 8 years ago today was the day that they signed Josh Hamilton. And how long did that last? You know what I mean? So it's, it's one of those things to where who would have thought that, after 2 seasons he would be out, but it's the kind of thing to where, maybe it's good that you can only get him on a 1-year deal. Cause then like Jackson said, maybe let's let him prove himself and see if he can, then great. But would I want him on my team? I think so. But, is he going to make everybody around him better? I guess is really what you're looking for when you're looking to sign a player. You were talking about Molina signing in Chicago for the White Sox. How great would that be? Yadier finishing his career, in the White Sox, working with all those young players, Abreu and Tim Anderson. I mean, that would be great. I mean, that's the type of free agent signing that you want. You want a good, nice, seasoned veteran that can help these young guys, bring them along, and teach them how to win. Is Trevor Bauer a winner? Yeah, he won the Cy Young, okay, but that was only on a 60-game season. Yeah, he wasn't that impressive in the World Series against the Cubs in 2016. Yeah, I was impressed with his start against Atlanta last year, but he pitches for the Reds. So,
Yeah.
so but I think he's going to be kind of the first chip. He's going to be the first chip that falls. And then after that, we'll start seeing the other guys, which I know you're going to bring up here in a second. So.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point too. And my only thing with Trevor Bauer, besides I'd love to see him in blue just to give us a strong right-handed presence that has somewhat proved himself. Goslin and May are still a few years out, and obviously you got Kershaw, and I mean Walker Buehler's lights out. We'll take him, but Trevor Bauer would be good for a club like the Mets, a club like Kansas City, those clubs that need, and actually even the Angels that are bringing some bats to town. And if you can get, I'll say it in air quotes, an ace, maybe. I mean, because Kansas City signed Carlos Santana. They made a couple other signings during this time. I mean, they're trying to make some type of noise, right? But to Dave's point, you've got Robert over there, you've got Abreu, you've got you've got some sticks over there. Tim Anderson. I mean, the White Sox should have a couple years of running away with the Central, but we'll see.
And just two other factors with that, and we need to move on to another player. But I think Ned's right. These owners don't have money. There's one team, maybe two, that does. The Dodgers are going to have the money. Maybe one or two others will splurge, but nobody's got the money. So maybe that argues back for a shorter term contract. And maybe Bauer is the kind of guy that would do it just to try it out. He also says he wants to play for a competitor like everyone else says. So you have to sell him on the fact that you can compete. And there's a bunch of teams that aren't going to be able to do that. So
that's true.
A few final thoughts there. The ownership in Chicago is really old. That guy wants to win again before he dies. So don't count him out.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so let's talk. Jackson, go for it.
I would just like to redact one of my statements about Trevor Bauer. He did have a good year in 2018, and I will give him that, but he's been pretty average the rest of the time.
I love the fact that you're looking this stuff up as we're talking.
Stats don't lie.
Jackson is the drop-in guy. That's the perfect guy, right? Viliami's our food critic for stadiums. Jackson's our great drop-in guy. Okay, so let's talk about some of the sticks that are out there. Okay, and boys, we can talk about whichever ones you guys want to go, but let's stay away from the traditional DHs for a second. Let's talk about DJ LeMahieu, and let's talk about George Springer. Those are two big sticks that are out there. Who makes sense to go? I mean, Dave, do you want George Springer on the south side?
Oh, we'd love to have him. He would fit in the lineup perfectly. There would be zero holes in that lineup for a pitcher to go around. So that would be fantastic. Are you going to spend whatever it takes to get him in right field? 20 million, probably 15 million. I don't know. I don't see him spending that on the right fielder at this point, but I would love to have him.
Yeah, he needs to get out of Houston. He needs to shed the stigma of cheating and things like that. He needs to get away from Houston. I think turning down the qualifying offer wasn't because it wasn't enough money. I think it was he wants a fresh scenery, right? So, I mean, George Springer. Now, I think DJ LeMahieu's discussion has much to do about nothing because I think that he'll work something out with the Yankees. And the Yankees, frankly, they need him. And you mentioned, Dave, a couple of teams are willing to open their wallets. Not a lot of teams have a lot of money, but I think the Dodgers do, and the Bronx will spend some money too if they need to. And a lot of the guys that I talked to from the Bronx love DJ. He's like an instant fan favorite, and they'll lynch mob if they can't bring him back. So
Yeah, and he's probably in the discussion of the top 5 worst trades the Cubs ever made when they traded him to Colorado.
yes. Amen to that. I looked up, it was interesting too. I looked up a bunch of just free agents. I was on the same website that you were, Dave, at one point, the trade rumor one, but I also looked up, we haven't talked about Didi or Simmons. I mean, I think Ned brought it up perfectly. Simmons is, right now, who needs a shortstop? But, and Didi's in that same boat, although Didi can play second base and Didi can hit. But listen to some of these names that can play DH. Now, mind you, fellas, we may have a shortened season again this year. There's a slight possibility of it. If we do get a national shutdown, come January, February, March, spring training gets pushed back, and we may have a 100-game season. We may not have fans in the stands. We may have the universal DH. Listen to some of these names that are out there: Nelson Cruz, Pablo Sandoval, Cespedes, Matt Kemp, Howie Kendrick. Would you take any of those guys to be your DH on a pretty consistent basis on your team?
Just Nelson Cruz.
Yes, Nelson Cruz?
Nelson Cruz, yes. That guy can
Okay.
hit. Don't have him play right field, though. The Rangers learned that the hard way in the World Series. That clip gives me so much pain every single time I watch it because they were so close. He missed the ball by that much.
But any of those other guys? Obviously Pablo probably is going to need a treadmill before. Yeah. What do you think, Dave? Would you take any of them?
I think that's probably a hard no.
Okay.
I don't think I'd take any of them. I loved Howie Kendrick with the Nationals. He had a great World Series, but age is not their friend at all, any of those guys. So I wouldn't do it. I would rather take a shot with in the White Sox case, Andrew Vaughn, a top 10 draft pick. You could just rake. I'd rather take my chances there and bring him along.
What do you think, Ned?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Dave and with Jackson about the age factor. Even Nelly Cruz, he's in his 40s, and how much longer is he gonna hit the way he's hitting? So, even though I did see a video tonight of Sheffield at 51 still hitting balls over center field, but those were pitches at 40 miles an hour. But
with the whole bat thing.
Anyway, but I think I'm with Dave. I think that'd be a hard no. It's just the DH position should be a lot more than just home runs and RBIs. It should be about slugging percentage. It should be about on base percentage, with a combination of that. And if you look at the DHs that were successful last season, Marcell Ozuna, for example, for one with Atlanta, he hit 338. Had Jackson. I'm sure you've got the stats there, but I think his OPS was over 1,000. I think that's what you want. You want guys that can hit for average, but also hit for power, hit for both, not just hit for hit a home run every 10 games or every 60 or 70 at bats. You don't want that. You want a guy that's going to be able to produce. So that list that you just gave, a lot of those guys seem to be over the hill for me. Even Nelly Cruz.
I totally agree with you guys. That's why I bring it up. I thought it was unique because in today's world of baseball, especially as we're probably going towards a universal DH, which I don't know if I like or not, but in today's baseball, age will really catch up to you. And I'm totally with you. If you could give me somebody, even if you gave me a DH that was a Rod Carew type hitter, that you just knew that every time he was up, there was a chance, or a Tony Gwynn, that it was just a contact and it was even a single or a double. And 2 to 10 home runs a season, that wouldn't bother me, because those are the type of guys that you can put in the lineup consistently and know that they're on base. I don't know when the DH, I do. Reggie Jackson was probably the DH extraordinaire that brought the long ball to the DH position, but I don't know that the long ball needs to be part of the DH.
I really like the idea of using the platoon and rotating guys through that position. and shoring up your defense. You find somebody that can really play in the outfield and run balls down, and you give him a few at bats, or you have a platoon like with Abreu at first base or with Grandal behind the plate. Give those guys some days off. That's what I would do. I would love to see that, which means I'm not paying for some old guy to come in and take at bats from a young guy.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I was a Matt Kemp fan when he was with the Dodgers the first time around. But I saw him, gosh, he ended Colorado this year. I saw him in one of the games, and he must have gained 60, 80 pounds, and his swing just wasn't what it was. And man's only 36 years old. And so, I mean, I don't know that I need him. So
It's a very fine line, right? To play at that level or to be on the scrap heap.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so as we're gonna wrap up here, I'm gonna throw out one name, and you just tell me. And Jackson, this one may hurt just a little bit for Braves fans, but I'm gonna give you guys one name. Tell me if you take him or not, and then if there's any other names we want to throw out, let's throw them out. But there was one guy that signed last year that didn't play one game, and he signed with the Braves. Would you sign Yasiel Puig to a contract anywhere? I know in Dodger Town we don't need him, and I don't know that we bring him back. But what do you think, Jackson? Would you bring him back to the Braves this year?
No.
Okay, Ned, you're on mute. Ned, you're on mute.
So sorry.
Try that again.
Speaking for the Angels, I actually think it would be good because it actually would put some of the Latino fans in the seats a little bit. People would come. I think the Latino fans would actually come out and see that. And he's going to give you. He might give you 10 to 15 home runs if he played 120 games. He's excitable but as you got to be able to manage him.
Yep.
Joe Madden could do that, I think.
Yep. Dave, would you take him?
I actually would, believe it or not, and it's not really for the reason you would think. It's because there's so many Cuban players on the team already that he would look up to, and you'd have Jose Abreu in his grill every day if he got on a line. I think he would be a decent fit there. I think all of the nonsense that made him so irritating in LA would be kept in check. If those guys can't keep it in check, he'd be out of the league. So I think I would give that a shot.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense. Not being as close to the White Sox as you. And Ned, I agree with you on the Angels. The Angels need that type of excitement. I also agree with Jackson on the Braves. I don't know that the Dodgers want to. It's really hard to bring back a player, as you boys know. Once they've left the organization, it's hard to bring back a player. I mean, sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. But the guy's excitable. He's crazy. And as my mother says, one day she was watching him and he licked his bat after he, fouled something off. And the way he was looking at his bat, my mom calls me and she goes, he really has a special relationship with his bat, doesn't he? I'm like, don't ask me, Mom. He's a little weird.
He's
okay.
like Joe. He's like Jobu from Major League.
Yeah, Jobu. It's Pedro Serrano. There's one player on the Dodgers. I'm not going to mention any names just in case he ever sees one of these, but there's one player on the Dodgers that I would love to text him that clip from Major League. Straight ball hit very well. Curveball bats are afraid. I have one player right now on the Dodgers. You guys all know who it is that just can't seem to hit a curveball. Anyways, Jackson, we're going to start with you. We're on the clock. Wrap us up with your 60 seconds. We'll go around the clock, but 60 seconds. Who do you want? Who would you love to have? Wrap us up wherever you want to go. 60 seconds. Go.
All right. Braves should re-sign Marcell Ozuna. Big time power threat. And I think he mixes really well. Braves have a lot of young Latino players as well, kind of like the White Sox. So I think he's a really good fit there. If not, I think they should go for George Springer. He's a proven winner. The guy has a career 8-something OPS. Still gives Freddie Freeman that protection. He's got good speed, good defense. he's the next best thing. But I think the big key for Atlanta, like my dad said earlier, is the buy low, because they have so many good prospects in the system. You can't afford to sign an outfielder on this long multi-year deal and potentially block one of the best hitting prospects in baseball, Drew Waters, or block Christian Pache, who looked pretty good in the playoffs, for being thrown in the fire. So I think the Braves will definitely buy low, and I think they'll just try to string enough pitching together, because they were one game away from the World Series. So
Yes, they were.
Yes.
I had a full head of hair when that series started. And now would you look at that? Anyways, thanks, Jackson. Ned, you're on mute.
Okay. Speaking from the Angels' perspective, I think they got to go out and make a big splash. So, I think they got to, do what they can to get, like we talked about earlier, get somebody like a Trevor Bauer to show the Angels fan support, Orange County, Southern California, that they're serious about, supporting, and Arnie Moreno, the owner, doesn't like to lose, and he said that multiple times. That's why he's brought in, a lot of these top line free agents and made some trades and got Joe Madden here to manage again. So Trevor Bauer is the guy that the Angels really need to go for, if anything. Last year they missed out on Garrett Cole, and if they miss out this year on Trevor Bauer, I won't be surprised. As as an Angel fan, you'll be shaking your head, going, "Okay, what are they doing?" But I think that's the guy that they need to get.
Perfect, Dave.
Well, I think, like we talked about, I don't think you see the White Sox jumping in on Trevor Bauer anytime soon. It just financially is not going to make sense for them. They've got a good enough core that they don't need to go and spend that money on their staff. But I would like to see what I suggested earlier. I'd love to see Yadier Molina come back with Tony La Russa and platoon with Grandal, and maybe get some DH at bats and really show these younger players how to win. I'd love to see, we need a closer. I'd love to see him go after Liam Hendricks, but I don't think spending money like that on a closer is probably wise either. So I like the Trevor Rosenthal idea. And I think, there's probably better than even money that Jose Quintana comes back after he's been done wasting his time with the Cubs.
There you go. Thank you. And from the Dodgers perspective, I want to see JT come back so bad. So bad. I think he's great for the Dodgers clubhouse. I think he's still got some stuff in the tank. I really do. I mean, if we can get Arenado, then we'll move him to first, right? And just for funsies, if we got Arenado at third, we had JT at first, Max Muncy at second, Corey Seager at short, and Arenado at third. That's akin to Murder's Row, the 1927 Yankees, right? When you add Mookie Betts in there and you add Cody Bellinger in there. So that's akin to, I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to be that good, but I mean, that would be fantastic. Sorry, Braves fans, but that would be fantastic. I really want JT to come back. I wish that we could get Kiki back, because I think he's a great platoon player and he sparks the offense. But he's already said he's going to test the free agency market. I'd love to see him come back, but I am very concerned that JT might go someplace else. And at that point, then we've got a hole at third that we've got to fill, and there's a number of different options that we have there. So that being said, I think we're there. I'm excited. I love the conversation about Trevor Bauer, but I'm excited to see where, after he falls, what happens with George Springer, what happens with Yadier Molina, what happens with DJ. I'm just excited. It's going to be an interesting offseason. So that all being said, my friends, for topfanrivalry.com, we're grateful for our friends Ned and Jackson and Dave showing up tonight again and being in the clubhouse. We will start up our clubhouse events again next season. Next year, not next season, but we will have next season as well. We're excited for everybody to be on. Please subscribe at the bottom. There will be more content to come. And by the way, look for a new article coming up about the top 8 best playoff / World Series games that should be posted up this week. So we appreciate everybody's time, and we'll look forward to having you next year. Happy holidays from topfanrivalry.com.